how this is. I'm supposed to be buying houses, not handling Zoom. I think Elijah's on here. He's doing Facebook right now too. So just
Yeah, that's me, man. I'm a house buyer. We get in all this digital stuff, and
Yeah, I'm with you.
I
all
struggle a
right.
little bit.
We're good. We're live, guys. Let's get rolling.
All right, hello, welcome everybody to the to Small Market REI, where the deals are real, the people are gritty, and if it works in the coal fields of West Virginia, it'll work anywhere. We've got a special guest today. We've got Micah Nicholes with us, who is owner of US Leads List. And I know a lot of you have are subscribed to US Leads List and have used that data through the years. So, it's really special to have him on the call with us today to really share, the insider information about US Leads List and kind of, maybe how to use those lists and do it a little better than what we've probably been doing before. He's also an investor, and he's been doing this for quite some time. So, without further ado, here's Micah, and he's going to kind of give you your story, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Coach. It just feels right saying that, Coach. Appreciate, uh, yeah, great intro. Hey, I'm a humble guy. I cannot say that I know everything, but I am an open book. I'll tell you everything I know, and if there's value I can give, I'll certainly share if I can. So, thanks for having me on here, guys, and hopefully we can have some fun, talk some real estate. This is my grind. This is my favorite thing. So, let's get going.
All right, man. So, I mean, just kind of give us the backstory of how you acquired US Leads List and how all that kind of happened, and you know, kind of where you come
Sure.
from and all that.
Yeah. Okay. U.S. lead lists. I bought it with my first two rental properties I ever bought. So I started real estate about 11 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that. The first two properties I ever bought, other than my home, I sold them to buy U.S. lead lists about 5.5 years ago. Um, and those two properties, that was back when you could get great deals on MLS. I think I bought a fourplex for 52,000 bucks, and then it was a fiveplex for 90. Between the two of them, I was grossing, I want to say almost 6,000 bucks a month. Um, so that was cool. Like, deals like that are harder to find, and really like kind of what I love about the small market REI. It's like that really is the only place you can find deals like that anymore. Is these little smaller tertiary markets. They're stable economies, but they're overlooked by bigger investors, and you can still find these little like pockets to bring in some great deals, create equity, just build value. Um, But yeah, so I've been doing US lead lists for a long time. Business acquisition was never really part of my plan, but you know, I I'd done so many things that I have a pig farm, I had a sawmill, I worked in restaurants, I was a wine distributor. I have had more jobs than I care to admit, and they all sucked compared to real estate. And once I got into real estate, and I was making more part time on this, a reoccurring revenue that I was generating from my rentals than I was at my W-2. Because and I didn't say this, but I bought both of those properties within a month. So I went from no units to 9 units in this tiny, literally, it's like a 600 person town. Both of them were like, pretty close to each other. Um, and, on paper or, someone outside looking in, like, isn't that risky? Isn't that stupid? And it was, yeah. Like I didn't math it out properly. I just was pretty cavalier. Like, yeah, let's go buy some stuff. It's going to be great. And fortunately, it did turn out great. But really, the trade-off was like, I managed my own properties. Every dollar that I generated, for the most part, I just stuck back into the properties. I made them better. It's like it's a grind. It was like comparable to getting that first $100,000. Once you have 100,000 bucks in the bank, everything else is just so much easier. But to live on rice and beans for that first 100,000, there's just no good way to say it. It sucks. I mean, it's shit. So anyway, I got through that and bought those properties and dumped my heart and soul into them. And And, at that point, I'm like, man, these jobs aren't working. Real estate, was good. I would do a few deals here and there, but it wasn't a business. It was a side hustle. I still had to keep my W-2. And what seeded the whole business acquisition thing was actually COVID. So government thought that, the world was going to end, and one of those pieces, one of the dominoes that was going to fall, was business acquisition. And so they gave out, pretty healthy incentives for people to buy a business during COVID. I think there was a variety of scenarios, but kind of what I was focused on is if you bought a business during that period and it was accepted, they would pay for principal and interest for 6 months of that business acquisition. It was like my business loan right now, I pay 20 grand a month. So it wasn't small change. Like that was probably whatever, 30% of my net worth at the time. Like, man, this is great. Sign up for free money, then get a business to, roll into. And so I got over 100 businesses. Just interviewing people, looking at P&Ls, talking to business brokers. And, I did, I could have done that better too. Again, I was pretty cavalier about the whole thing. It just kind of rolled into it, and I got lucky. But I will say that you have to be careful buying businesses. There's so many more things that can go wrong with a business acquisition than real estate acquisition. They could be cooking the books. They could be, it could be misrepresented by the broker. I literally am threatening legal action right now on another business that I purchased that ended up being a big wash. So going into that, I chose a good business. It was solid, and it was in real estate, and I landed on U.S. lead list. And for me, what was super exciting was just the immediate upside. These guys, they were amazing dudes. They ran this business. They started up. This was their brainchild, and they literally did everything on paper. They had a completely digital product, and they did everything on paper. So, order comes in, they're writing down the credit card number, they're typing it in by hand. So all the things I'm like, look outside looking in, I'm like, hey, I'm not a brilliant programmer, or, I'm not great with tech, but I know I can come up with a solution that's better than this. And so I bought the business, and, kind of was the first, whatever phase of working outside of the business on the business of basically getting software built that took one full position away, which is cool. Like that's leverageable upside, and that's like adding an extra unit to apartment building. um and That's kind of how it's been. And pretty much since then, I in tandem with running US lead list, I run my own my own flips. I've got like 7 active flips going right now. I've got 2 under contract. I got one I just listed earlier this week. So I do a lot of real estate deals. I hold, not a crazy amount of doors. I think I'm like 30 doors, a couple Airbnbs, and I just like real estate. And most of my marketing and deal acquisition, it's in and around probate, inheritance. When someone dies, it is a sure way to find people who need to sell, but not always under the time frame that we investors want. Usually, it's slower than what I would hope for. So that's where I do a lot of coaching with my clients. It's like, how do you stay in front of them? How do you give them the right message? How do you connect with them in different ways across their journey through solving their, it's a big logistical and emotional problem, getting through that situation.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. It's definitely a slow burning process, right? Um, it's I'm glad you pointed that out. So how long would you say on average in your experience, what's the lifeline of a probate deal usually?
God, it's like all over the board. Like, if I were to tell you like literally my deals that I have right now. So I was just I had a flip like, half an hour ago. That one, I've been marketing to this person for like multiple years. I sending letters, cold calling. I could never get a hold of them. They never, wanted to talk to me. But one of the things that I started doing was just networking with estate people. And I pay estate salespeople 1% of a deal if they can bring it to me. So this guy's like, "Hey, oh yeah, I've got this one over here." Um, so I got to connect through this estate sale guy, even though I've been marketing to this person forever. And her husband passed away 7 years ago, and finally it was about to go into foreclosure. I came in, bought it up, and so like that's I would say that's on the outside edge of it. Um, and if it's probate specifically, then you're 2 years, like for complex probate cases, maybe three for actually everything to kind of work its way through. And sometimes if a spouse, has their surviving spouse, it can be really quick. Literally one letter, and they're ready to go right now. So kind of all over the board, but most of my stuff comes, 8 months and beyond, from between the events is what I would say.
Yeah, that's so good, man, because you know, I look back on a lot of the deals that I've done or a lot of the leads that I've talked to, even the deals that I haven't done, and it's amazing that at one point in time a lot of them are inherited houses.
Hmm.
I just spoke with a lady this morning, and it's been years since she inherited the house. She's rented it out. She lived there at one point, but now it's at the cycle where she's in another house. She don't want to rent it anymore. So it's time to sell it, and she's emotionally ready to sell it. And I think timing's everything. So what are we doing right now in 2026? Like what are you doing, Micah, to stay in front of these people, to stay in touch and to not bother them and overdo it?
Yeah, that's such a good question, and I don't have the perfect answer. I just try a lot of stuff, and I get to talk to a lot of people who are doing the same thing. Um, so my latest deal that I closed, I actually got it from cold email, which has been a really interesting channel for inheritance because it's like a mixture of sending a text message and direct mail. When someone responds to you, they're pretty interested. It's an inbound lead. They're waving their hand like, "Oh, hey, me. I solved my problem." Um, but it's cheap. You can cycle through your list at a higher frequency, without being annoying than texting. And so I think for me, that has been a channel that I've grown, and stayed on top of that, really is, I think, going to be a huge win. I started maybe 3 or 4 months ago doing it seriously to like everyone in my database, on just cold lead gen. That's really useful. Direct mail over time, like physical evidence of your business directly into someone's mailbox is a really good thing. And it's funny. I talk a lot about, just quality of, direct mail letter. Like, Travis, I don't know how much money like my clients have made from that recommended letter that I talked to you. I don't know, it's a couple of years ago now. But I just totally, I stole it, but I give you credit. I stole your letter. But I tell other people to use it. I'm like, guys, just ask a question. Just, get them on the phone, get them curious about what you have to say and who you are. And, sending a good open-ended letter will get your phone ringing. And then from there, it's just like follow up, value. How can you deliver not on what you want, but what they want? Because the more that you can deliver on what they want and their needs, and putting their needs above yours, the more they're going to trust you and like, let you enable yourself to transact with them. Everyone is, we're over marketed to, we're over like saturated with tech and ads and all the things. And for me, what I've really been leaning into is just more human interaction as much as possible. The lead comes in, I'm not, they text, I'm not texting back, I'm calling them right away. I want them to hear my voice. I want to be the human. I don't want to be the AI interpreter that's, I know they're getting better and they can compete with me, but I think I could crush any AI bot right now. Like without a doubt, like I know I can outsell them. Maybe at some point that will be, not the case, but for now that's the best way to convince sellers that, I'm good. I'm like, you can know me, you can like me, you can trust me, and show up in an original, helpful way that is centered around the needs of the seller, not my own needs.
Yeah, man. I love what you said too. Like, I think that curiosity, going back to the letter, going back to the just, asking a question, like, I'm still very basic. Hey, I have a question about the property. Please call me, Travis. And just that I always think like when I'm writing something down or I'm writing some type of marketing or I'm thinking about calling someone, like, think about the other person again. We talk about this all the time. Like, don't think about yourself. Think about the other person on the other end of that marketing and all the other marketing they get and going again. So you said 2 years, sometimes can be the process. So you could be sending out a lot of mail and they could be getting a stack of other people's mail. So I always think I want to be the stack of mail. Like, if you're going to be doing mail, then when they go to their stack, you want to be all in that. I can't tell you how many times that somebody's just grabbed a card out, and where I sent so many cards, my chances were higher. So are you sending a lot of mail? Like, maybe not a lot, but every 3 months, are you sending mail every 2 months like that?
It's three. So I hit on inheritance specifically, three pieces in the first 3 months or first 60 days. And then after that, I go to a quarterly basis. So every, 3 months I'll hit them again. And, I think the other thing that, is worth talking about and you kind of touched on is like cheap mail will get cheap results. Like, inheritance probate, like we're talking about a very small niche. You're not hitting a zip code. You're not blowing up a neighborhood. You're like, my list over 10 counties is 500 people. Like that is a tiny list. So like I would much rather have a high quality product that converts better to people who I know are gonna sell, who need to sell their property, by sending something original, 3D, getting them, curious, using, a real stamp that's decorative, like get it, just little things that you can differentiate and, have people pause and say like, because we all do that, right? You go out to the mailbox and you're like, junk, junk, huh? Like, how can you get someone to pause and go, this is interesting, or what is this? Because if you're not doing that, if you're not like passing that test on the regular, like for every person who looks at it and says junk mail, that's wasted dollars. So spending a little bit more on direct mail to like get over that hump. And I don't even think it's that much, maybe like 20% more. Maybe you put a quarter, a penny inside. So it's 3D. They're like, oh my God, what's in here? What's going on? And you just drive curiosity that you're going to get better results. So anything to be different than the masses is going to pay big dividends here.
Yeah, man, that's good stuff. So, what are you doing about like as far as like hitting the list in every direction? So you're doing some email, you're sending some direct mail. Are you doing anything? Do you have anybody calling? Are you calling? I'm sure you're not calling a whole list of people.
I don't do as much calling. I have my acquisition guy cold call through all of our lists once, and then we'll come back and we'll hit people who are either in like really hot targeted zip codes or neighborhoods where we want to be, we really want to buy, and also people who own more than one property. So like that was one of the things that we found that really drove a lot of net, net income to my business was people who had a rental property or any other real estate other than their house. They treat those differently than they treat their home. So centered around death, people are sentimental. But if you're working with someone who's a landlord or they manage a small portfolio, they'll transact on those in a different way than they will their house, and usually quicker. And so we cold call all of those people who have at least one additional property, and I have set appointments, and those come to me with them. So we're doing that. I don't do much text anymore. We're doing the email, and soon I'm setting it up now. We're going to be kind of tying those to a digital fingerprint and doing meta marketing to that like as an audience.
Okay, nice. Are you still using for the email? I think you're the one that referred this to me. Smart Lead for the email. Is that what you're using?
Yep. Yeah, so Smart Lead has been pretty good. I've had a few hiccups. The challenge with cold email is, kind of deliverability and, making sure that you're hitting people's inboxes. And, you know, I guess how you do that is, properly warmed up email sending accounts. And so, Smart Lead has a service where you can go buy those on there. They'll set it up all of it up for you. It's pretty easy and simple. The problem is that for me, I spent I don't know, I can't remember. It was like $400 or $500. It wasn't a ton, but um, all of those emails failed. And before I had purchased theirs, I'd set some up myself. So I bought domains. I'd gotten sending accounts, 5 per each one, and warm those up and done that all on my side. Those haven't failed. And so I've actually scaled that side of it where I'm setting them up. So I wouldn't recommend just going and buying their send accounts. That I ended up getting burnt there and spent a bunch of time and money that kind of got wasted. But um, it's I honestly I probably spend a half an hour a month dealing with it. And like I said, the first deal that I transacted, I guess the last deal that I bought was my first deal that I'd gotten just solely from cold email. I have other leads, there's other stuff in the funnel, but this guy basically was like ready to go. He's like, the timing of this is crazy. My mother-in-law, her husband just passed away, and she's moving in with us, and we have this rental that we're trying to sell because we had to buy a bigger house. It's like, this is crazy. I was like, yeah, I know, this is crazy. I can't believe that. Um, so, again, it's just a simple way to like just keep on pinging them, keep on pinging them. And again, it's like, you know, I don't know about y'all, but my inbox is just filled full of all sorts of offers. And then all of a sudden something clicks where I'm like, oh, I actually need that. And then it's like already in my inbox. I didn't even, it was static. It was noise, until I was like, oh yeah, I need this. And then all of a sudden it's there already waiting for me. So that's kind of what it's like. And it's again, not crazy expensive, but a good way to hit a lot of people.
Nice, nice. So yeah, we did a little bit of testing with it. I didn't have much luck. I guess we gave up early, be honest. We had so much other stuff going on. That was just kind of like a test anyway, and we didn't give it its full go, I don't believe, but we probably should. But the biggest thing with probates, because I love these inherited properties, and the biggest thing that I hear though from other people is the fact that it sucks to lose a loved one, man. Like that sucks so bad. We all know, we've all felt that, and probate inherited leads. It gets emotional, and some people get offended if you're reaching out to them. So how do you handle this, man? Like how do you handle this conversation with people?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no one likes the Hertz chaser. That mentality is a big objection, and that's why a lot of people like it's still a good place to operate. It's not oversaturated because a lot of people just don't want to handle. They don't want to deal with that. They don't want to interact. So for me, how I coach my clients, and I would tell the same thing to y'all, is don't talk about it. And none of your marketing uh, don't pretend like because first off, like I humbly say that our data isn't perfect. I will say we work really hard, but like maybe that person actually didn't have someone die and they do want to sell. But regardless, when you're handling these people in high emotional, high stress states, um, showing up in a genuine way of just trying to help. For me, if I'm cold calling or my mail, it's all I treat them basically like any other lead. I want to get them curious. I want them reaching out to me like they need something. And even like I have a question about your property letter, like I'll get a bunch of stuff that you kind of have to triage. Like they're not actually interested in selling, but those people will convert over time. If I do a good job on that introductory call, I take a few extra minutes to convince them that like I'm actually a good person and I'm trustworthy. And normally how I do that is I ask them questions and I listen to them and I repeat it back. Not hard. It's kind of like being married for you guys. Like your wife will love you. Take that advice, apply it there. It's going to be great. So like if you do that, you spend just a little bit of extra time, and like it seeds in people's minds. And when they need you, they'll be like, oh man, hey, that Tony Howard guy, he is really nice. I like him. And like that for me, that's what it's about. It's seeding in people's minds like what I do, that I'm a trustworthy guy, and that I'm going to show up in the best way that I can because I've already interacted with them in some way, shape, or form. And you take a second and you imprint your soul into someone else, and you can't replicate that. That is a scarcity in the world. And if you do it right, with the time that you have, and you teach other people to do it for you in the name of your brand, you're going to win more. So I kind of got on a tangent a little bit on how you handle it, but yeah, logistically, as far as marketing goes, I just don't bring it up. I do have a good amount of clients that actually do send, those classic probate letters. Um, and like, they're tenured clients. Like one of them's been with us for like 7 years. The other one's been with us for 5 years. And they're like, yeah, man. People call and they like all like 95% of everything we get back is hate. They just like, F you, you're the worst, you're awful. But then there's like a few people that are like, hey, thank you so much for sending that really thoughtful letter. My husband did die. I don't know what to do with the house. It needs repairs. I can't solve that. And so like they're touching on the exact pain point, the right thing. And for some people, it actually creates more rapport and they do deals. So I don't know. To me, it's like there's no perfect way. So long as you're marketing and learning and trying to optimize, you're going to get better. But again, it's like it takes intention and purpose to kind of evolve through that because not knowing and sending a probate letter and getting that much hate is tough for most people. Most people don't want to deal with that, and that's fair. Um, so I yeah, I don't know. I
No, yeah, that's
that
good.
I,
That
okay.
answers my question because, that's how I do it too. And I know that there's so many ways to do this business successfully. I treat all my marketing the same. I know there's so many different situations: divorce, inherited, foreclosure, tax lien, and I don't want to just call you out on it. I want to gain some curiosity, get you on a call, ask some really good questions, and have you tell me what's going on. That way I can, come up with a good solution for that and present it to you, see if it helps, right?
Yeah.
So one thing I've been wanting to ask you, man, I think it's really cool. Then I know David's probably, I got to get this question out before I forget. Um, you guys have some new data, at least new to me that I didn't know. So I know you got inherited land, but I seen something about commercial properties. Am I right? Like inherited commercial? So
Hmm.
I'm just wondering, like I've never, marketed just to inherited land or inherited commercial, and I'm curious to know, are you seeing success with that yourself or any of your students or any of your clients?
Yeah, it depends. So it's funny, like I've had a lot of people, like we've sold a lot of that data. We only sell it one time and we sell it for a whole state. So it takes the right person to buy it and it's expensive. Um, so, all those things present their own unique challenges. But uh, it really comes down to the operator. It's like how good are their systems set up? How good is their follow up? How good is their relationship building? Like it really comes down to like how good the team is. And so that's why it's funny to me. It's mind blowing. Like I have clients all over. Like some they'll stay with us for like 2 months, and they're like, "You guys are garbage. This is the worst data ever." And da 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 da. And then, I've got other clients, they've been with us for 20 some years and they've like, the overall lifetime value of them is like multiple $100,000. And it's like, well, like, it can't be all us, right? So, and I would echo that. Our data isn't perfect, but it's as good as anyone I have ever seen. And that it really comes down to the team and what you're doing with it. So if you're doing a good job of marketing, you have your systems down pat of a good acquisitionist on the phone who can handle emotional distress, which really like that's most of who we deal with. It probate is just another version of that. I think there's definitely success there. So I've transacted on a few commercial deals from my list. I've done a good amount of land from my list personally, and I have clients in both the commercial and land that are definitely in the black, doing really, really well with those products.
That's exciting, man. That's exciting. I'm happy
So
for you guys. You guys have always gave that model that I love, that your scarcity's always been top tier, because it's limited. It's U.S. lead list used to be so hard to get into before you purchased it. You've really made it available, even though there's still limited availability.
Yeah.
So what's up,
Yeah,
David?
sure.
You got anything over there you want to talk about, Coach?
I think Gideon had a chat on here. He wanted to know about foreclosed homes. What
Yeah.
information?
What about foreclosed? So, are we talking like already foreclosed by the bank? If you're still on here, Gideon, tell me, just beef that question out a little bit. I don't quite understand what you're after.
Yes, hello.
Hey,
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing good. So, I meant pre-foreclosure and foreclosed home. When it comes to reaching out to those people or talking to those people, what do you recommend and how do you usually go on about that?
I think in some ways it's similar. Foreclose. So once it becomes posted, um, and that, the sheriff's sale or, whatever it's listed, they're getting hit pretty hard. So there is kind of a backdoor way that you can get pre-foreclosure information. It's a product that we vend. You could, there's other sources for it as well. I don't like our vendor. He's really hard to work with. So if you find someone else, great. I'll just tell you what I think you should do. So, pre-foreclosure is kind of broken up into three tiers: 30 days late, 60 days late, 90 days late. After that, it gets posted into, the auction. That's basically kind of when they're recording that the foreclosure is going to take place, and it gets much more formal from there. So, most of those 30, 60-day people, they'll cure. And what I mean by that is that they borrow money from their uncle, they pay it off, they get back into good standing, they actually decide to go get that job, whatever. I don't mean to minimize people's challenges, but they figure out how to pay that off, and then they get it back into good standing. At 90 days though, so you're kind of in that sweet spot. So you're in between where it's public and private. So it's still in between, the bank and that mortgagee. Um, a lot of those are still going to cure, but there's a good amount of them in there that aren't going to cure. So if you can get a leg up into marketing to those people, and I don't like, I played around with this a good amount in my own real estate business. I don't have the perfect messaging. Again, I think it's just, hey, my name's Micah. I'm a investor. I'm a home buyer in your area. Are you interested in selling? It's just introduce yourself, tell them what you do, and start a conversation. The hard thing about foreclosures is like, normally it's a desperate situation. People live there, they don't want to leave. They're, it's different than a death where it's like, there's kind of like it unseats something and they kind of want to move on or are going to move on, one of the two. So like, surviving spouse, like two deals last year. It was like just people who were like, I don't want to be anywhere near where my spouse was. Like, I want to move on. It's time to go. Usually foreclosure, it's like something bad happened outside of, their house. They lost a job or something. They're trying to figure out some situation that they can stay. They're looking for another job. And there are some that were like, that just doesn't work out. And they do need to sell. So it's definitely a good lead channel. I would get as close to the auction as possible. I have a good amount of buddies who all they do is they, as soon as it's posted publicly, they go door knock them. There's not a lot of people that are willing to put their, the money maker on the doorstep and show their face and get out there and, speak that message to those people. So if if you're willing to be gritty like that and get out there, like there's absolutely an opportunity and there's deals for you. But you're under kind of a little bit of a time crunch, kind of got to work under the gun, but definitely worth it. Good lead channel for sure.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just a note on my end too. Everybody that I know that's successful in doing the foreclosures and the wholesaling, at least, they're outdoor knocking as well. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
And as we
Yeah.
move along, anybody that has a question, put it in the chat and we'll try to get it answered as we go along. Um, And, here in West Virginia, we run into a lot of probates that they're early in the probate process. It's usually a 90-day process if everything goes smoothly. And, we kind of find that we buy these probates 2 and 3 years down the road, even,
Hmm.
you know. So, you know, it's more of a statement than a question, but, it's like having a big pipe and you keep putting leads in it and you keep putting leads in it till you fill the pipe up and then some stuff starts to come out the other end. And that's kind of the way I describe probates is it like Travis said, it's a slow burn, but when they start coming out the other end, the leads, they're really good leads. I
Yeah.
mean, and lots of families, there's a lot of emotion, maybe two, three, four siblings, and they can't bring themselves to sell the property. They hold it for years. And then usually one sibling is is tired and they're paying all the bills and they're paying all the expenses. And so and then they all of a sudden they just the switch flips and it's usually right around tax time, which is
Hmm.
we're starting to see a lot of tax calls right now. I think we've had 3 tax leads in the last couple of days. So and that usually brings people along and they just don't want to pay the taxes again. They want to get it sold and they want to move forward. So not a question,
Yeah.
just more of a statement. But what do you see where you're at? I mean, what is the timeline on probate, and do you see those 2 and 3 year deals down the road? Do you get those?
Yeah. Most of them, it really is a slow burn. So, our list, the inheritance list, it's kind of the, four main channels, but it's really two. So it's surviving spouses, and the other set is pre-probate. And surviving spouses, there's still a slow burn, but you'll get some faster deals through that channel. The pre-probate, you're looking at, if people are really organized, maybe 6 months between death and actually getting it done. Um, but literally, I'm going through this with my dad right now. My dad passed away, unfortunately, 4 months ago, and so he's got his house. We're going through probate. We're like, there's all these logistical like things that keep on coming up. I got to take care of this, and now we got to go through. It's like it's arduous, painful, emotional, and kind of hard. And and so I think that your time frame, it's right. It's just like stay in front of these people, keep them connected if you can to someone on your team. I was listening to someone and he was talking about how probate, it's almost like its own. It really is in its way its own beast because you, you get someone who's like like Travis. Like Travis is like one of the like he's hungry, he works hard, he wants it, but he's, at least it seems like to me, a genuinely caring guy. And so if you've got someone on your team who can be that, who can hold that place, like it should be just be their seat that they sit. They're always dealing with these people. Like you can have a cold salesman run other calls, but probate is a little bit different. I think it's helpful to have an empath or someone who cares anywhere on your sales team. I think it's useful and it's its own selling style. Um, but probate specifically, it's like have a person who's good at understanding emotional complexities, problems, and just have them keep those people warm as they're going through that. Sometimes literally like 4 or 5 years, like it can take a long time, but they're the biggest, juiciest deals when when that switch flips and all of a sudden you get this call and they're like, you're like, well, actually, I need to be at 40 grand lower. And they're like, okay. Like money is not the biggest problem for these people when they want to sell. It really is just, logistically get this damn thing off of my plate. I want to be done. It's time for me to move on. Um, so I definitely think you're right about that.
Yeah, we see a lot, and this is where what we do out here as investors, our business model really comes in because over 20 years of 25 years doing this, I've talked to a lot of people, and they're out of state, or the house needs repair, or it's loaded with stuff, and they're overwhelmed by the
Hmm.
idea of I don't know what to do with all this stuff. I got to clean all this stuff out. That the roof is bad. I got to do these repairs, and bam, we show up. We say, hey, don't worry about it. take what you want. We'll handle the rest. We'll buy it as is. We'll close with you out of state. You don't have to come in, and people are just like so relieved. Like, you guys will do that. And we're like, yeah, we'll take it.
Yep.
It's loaded with stuff. There's pianos, there's water beds, or, all, we'll take it. We'll do it. We'll handle it. We'll get rid of it. And so,
Yeah.
you're exactly the solution that people are looking for when it comes to a lot of these probates. We have a couple more questions here in the chat. Uh, what message would, this is from Victor, what message would you use for an original SMS to probate list? What message will you use in the first letter to the probate list if you were texting?
Yeah. Let me just do this, guys. I've got basically, for all my clients, I just give this to them. So I'm gonna share a Google file with you all, and you guys, feel free to grab what's pertinent to you. So while I'm doing that, as far as SMS, I to me, I say just keep it, simple. What works best for your other campaigns? So, on inheritance, or probate, for the most part, you're not texting the person, you're texting the person linked to them, so their spouse or their relatives. And they're you kind of need to segment those two things because the spouse typically is on title. Um, and so they can sell when they want, if they want to. They just have to produce a death certificate. Usually, it can, depending on the area. But if you're marketing to the relatives and they, don't live there, they're not the owner, it's really helpful to reference the property so they have context for what you're trying to say. And again, I did texting a good amount of it, but I stopped doing it. But um, you know, what, like, hey, I'm trying to find the owner of, 123 Main Street, or I sent a letter to 123 Main Street and I can't, I didn't hear anything. Do you know how I can contact the owner? I don't really know. I'm literally just spitballing right now, but those people aren't necessarily going to know what you're talking about. If, like, hey, do you want to sell are you interested in selling your real estate or something of the sort? You could say that, and then maybe they would think that by association. But it really just depends. So, cold calling, on the other hand, if you're calling the relatives, that's usually what I recommend, saying something like, hey, I sent a letter to 123 Main Street. I didn't hear anything back. I'm just trying to find the owner. And you just pause, and so normally how people will respond, if you've got someone who's, a normal human that's not angry or anything, it's like, oh yeah, that's my uncle. He passed away. Like, oh, I am just so sorry to hear that. That's awful. Well, you know, I- this may be too soon, and I'm sorry I stumbled across the situation, but do you know what they're planning on doing with the house? Do they have any plans? Like, well, I don't know, but my uncle, Ned, he's taking care of everything. Like, okay, well, would you mind sharing his contact information with me? And just get it. That pitch is always a little bit hard. Getting someone else's number that they don't know you, you're a stranger unless you sat with them on the phone for a little bit. So you could offer to leave your number, but see if you can get their name, because you can usually find that person online. Go on some kind of a digital database and get there. Um, you guys see that Google Drive? One of you guys just want to click on that and just make sure you can get into that. It should be open for y'all to see.
Okay, yeah, I see it in there. Okay, go ahead.
Let's see. Yeah, there's a few questions here. Joel, you're asking about what I'm looking for. So, um, when we're so like our company, we build the list nationally every month, and so we're bringing quite a few separate data channels in. If you're looking for just low hanging fruits, and you want to work in inheritance and kind of DIY, obits are a really good place to start. Death certificates are harder to get. Death notices, all this social security stuff, like all of those channels are much harder to kind of put together and get a feed on. But obits are pretty public. You could go to legacy.com or something like that. I think there's another one where people can do it. So, I would say if you're going to go down that path, and you would learn this eventually, but, you know, look at the obit, see if you can find where they lived on True People Search or something like that, and then check to see if they own real estate on whatever, any real estate kind of service platform that you may have. But yeah, that can be a good way to do it, and you can build that yourself.
Yeah. What I really love about US Leads List coming from a wholesaler standpoint is, I know that going down to the court, because some of this data isn't available online, and going down to the courthouse, and even when it is available online, going through it and putting it all together, it gets complicated when the only thing you should really be doing is making calls, sending out mail, talking to people, giving offers. So that's why I like US Leads List. So I definitely would recommend at least, setting up a call with Micah and his team and seeing if it's available in your market. That's why I wanted to, we wanted to bring him on here because, it's such a good resource. We get deals from it. But yeah, man, I know we're running out of time. So, if we have any more questions and we want to touch some more stuff before we go, that's awesome. We appreciate you guys, man. Everybody always coming on here showing love. Let's see.
Yeah, it looks like J Rod, would I recommend doing just probates? Yeah, absolutely. Um, probate filings when they're like that is a great deal channel. I would recommend just changing your marketing, maybe a touch, because the good thing about probate is you know who to talk to. So that's the difference. It's like the PR is going to be listed, the executor, the attorney is going to be listed, so you can call those people directly. Hey, I saw you were listed on this probate thing. Someone died. I want to make money. I mean, don't do it like that, but you can say like, hey, I'm a home buyer. I do regularly look at the probate filings, and there's seriously no pressure. But if you're interested in selling your real estate, I would love to be an option. Um, and again, you just have to be careful. Like that's why I prefer just not to come in with why I'm important and really sell myself. It Getting someone to tell me why they need me is much more powerful than me telling them why they need me. So starting those conversations from that perspective, at the probate stage, like it's good. You could even do it the same way I was talking about earlier. Write them a letter, or just call them and say, hey, I'm a wholesaler, or whatever. I'm a not wholesaler. Usually I don't open by disclosing that, but I'm a home buyer, and I'm interested in buying your property. But if it lines up with that probate filing, they're going to be getting a lot of those other calls. And so that's, to me, why it makes more sense to just tell them and be honest, because I personally, on the other side, I would just rather deal with someone who's going to tell me the truth. Like, I don't like it when people are like trying to pull one on me or myth me. And again, like I was talking about it earlier, we're all in a trust recession. Like, I don't believe anything that I see until I have a good reason to actually believe it. And I think that's true with, the general population feels that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
another thing.
everybody has, is this a scam in the back of their mind?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, so quick question. Sorry to just jump in there. This is J-Ron. But as far as like Micah, your data, so your data is before they petition for the probate?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So we're building our data from did someone die? And if they did, do they own real estate? And so if both of those things are true, then we put, it makes it onto our list.
Okay. Because I'm currently all of my deals have come from cases that have been petitioned for.
Okay.
And so I get that from the county on a daily basis. I'm scrubbing the files for court hearings, and that's majority of my deals have. I just bought one. I'm flipping it, and then it was from a that type of lead gen. But I work full time, So, and I've been marketing like SMS and I'm doing the probate, but I just see that most of my deals are coming from that probate lead gen that I do. So I was
Yeah.
just kind of thinking, man, should I just go all in that? I mean, the deal that I bought, I mean, it only cost me my time, not necessarily budgeting money, you know what I mean? Like for campaigns.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think it
um,
just depends what you want. Like, are you trying to pivot out of your W-2? You know, are you cool doing both? Like, you know, it's because if you are, it's and it's working, like, why change it? Like, I don't like the people who end up really, you know, getting something, at least from my service, or like buying data from me or someone else. They're trying to set up kind of like what Travis was saying. You know, they're on the phone, they're making offers, they're putting deals together, and you know that really is the highest use of your time as a real estate investor. So
hmm,
you know, if you're like, if you're good with your situation, then like, I don't, you know, don't change. But if you're trying to optimize to have like more time up here, making those offers on the phone, following up with people where, you know, kind of that money is, then, you know, you should be like, okay, well, what's my end goal? Am I trying to create a business? Do I want to have this come to me? Do I want to track more deals into my funnel and have more opportunities and optimize for that? Because like, you know, I think, you know, going all in on probate is a good idea. But then maybe at some point you're like, you know, if you want it, you know, you need to add another channel because you want to have a business that's consistent. You're doing 1, 2, 3 deals a month, you know, whatever that means, whatever success is for you. So I think that comes down to what you want.
got it. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, because
Yeah.
right now, it's only there's not a whole lot of cases that are open on a daily basis. It's just like one or two, three.
Yeah.
Sometimes there isn't any. So that's why I had to kind of do something else outside of that, like like abroad.
Yeah. No,
And
no,
I'm
makes
doing
sense.
that, but it's just mainly just getting my deals from the probate. So, but
It's a
yeah,
good,
thank you.
yeah, good channel. There's money in probates. It's as awful as it is for them, you know, you can show up and you can really help and make their life easier for the right people. So it's gratifying.
Yeah. Hey, J Rod and everybody, I've been getting Micah's data for years before even before Mike even owned the company. And here's what I found is a portion of Micah's data are properties that are inherited where the owner placed the property in a trust. And so the property is in a trust, which means when the owner of the trust dies, the documents authorize the trustee of the trust to sell the property, and it avoids probate, which
Yep.
means if you focused in on those leads, especially for you, J. Rod, working full time, you're not having to deal with probate, which can take somewhere between 3 to 6 months to a year. Whereas if the property is in a trust, the trustee can sell the property today and close it in the next 30 days. So that's the difference with Micah's list is a portion of those are properties in trust that you can buy quickly and close quickly and avoid probate.
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks, Bill.
Uh,
That's some gold, Bill.
that's right.
We
I didn't pay him
appreciate
to
you.
say that. I didn't even, Bill ushered me into this business. He knew more about my business, when I first met him, when I, when I bought it than I did. And so, he's actually been a resource to me. Um, It's it's funny. I had a deal recently where that exact same thing happened, but the lawyer was shady and he just wanted as much money as possible, and he made the family pay to have it go through probate, which is crazy. So he set up the trust, but then he made him pay for probate too, and it's like, oh my God, what are we doing?
Was that in California?
No, no, it was Wisconsin.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I know.
That's amazing. But irregardless of that exception,
Yeah,
most of
no,
them, are properties in trust where you can actually avoid probate. So if you're time constricted and you want to get the deal done quickly, focus in on those leads.
yeah. Gideon, we got just a couple minutes here, but you're asking how I connect with buyers. Similar. So I actually implemented cold email for that too. That's been growing my buyers list. I use social media a lot, and then we'll cold call. I'll have cold call campaigns, going for that where, I'm just basically continuing to build. I don't wholesale a lot of my stuff. Right now in my market, flip is the best means of monetizing my deals. Basically get almost triple the spread, and I have a good team and implementation to kind of take it all the way through. And I found this bank around me that they will finance just about anything I bring to them, and the appraisals always come back way higher than they should, and they'll give me, so long as my repairs are less than $100,000, they'll give that to me the day of the closing. So that's made it really easy to flip for me. So
Oh.
those bank relationships are out there, and they can change your whole business if you can find the right one. I would definitely recommend doing some hard work on that end. I didn't know. I just linked up with this bank like 9 months ago, and I'm blown away the like how they operate. It's like the wild, wild west.
Hey, Mike, on one of your letters, you said, the letter says that you're sending out to the probate and inherited property leads. I had a question about your property. When
Yeah.
they call, how do you respond to that?
So yeah, normally the first thing out of their mouth is, "You got a question?" It's like, "Oh yeah, this is totally out of the blue and random, but my name's Micah. I've got a company called, Badger Home Buyers, and we buy houses. I'm just curious if you thought about selling yours." That's it.
That's
And
it? Wow.
that's it. And normally it's from there. It's, "How'd you get my information? Yes, no, or maybe." That's really it. There's almost nothing in between. Um,
What's your answer to how'd you get my information?
I always say we use county records to, grab your information. We did a flip in that, and near your place, and we were just going through mail and folks close by. And similar too, if I'm cold calling, especially on this list, if you're cold calling, I always tell people how I get their number. So, because they're older, right? Like the average age of the spouses on this list who are still alive, it's mid 70s. Um, and so, when they answer, when they pick up, it's like, "Hey, this is Micah. I'm potentially interested in buying your house if you thought about selling it. I know this is crazy out of the blue, and you don't know me, but I got your number from this, website after I looked it up on the county records. The website's called True People Search, and they'll like literally go and bang it out on the keyboard, type it in, and they'll look up their name, and oh my God, my number is right there." And again, it's like it kind of feeds into what I've been saying this whole time. I'm a truth teller. I told them the truth. They went and found the answer, and it verifies again that I am who I am, and that I'm not trying to scam these people. I'm telling them the truth, and for me, like that's been magic.
It's awesome, man. No, that I tell everybody to call Micah and that I got it from US Leads List, and I get everybody blowing Micah up. So
Oh man.
no, I'm playing, but no, man, everything that you said is spot on, man. At least I agree with everything that you said. It's okay if nobody else does, but yeah, no, we appreciate you guys. We do gotta go. David, do you want to just lead us out?
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you again next week. It's every Wednesday at 2. Also, on our school group, we've got a new deal breakdown coming up. And if anybody would want that, one or both, just reach out to us. Just comment deal breakdown or comment both, and we'll send them both to you, and you can kind of watch those videos. Just remember, this is not legal or financial advice. Always consult your professional. And on behalf of Micah Nicholes, Travis Goodwin, I'm David Dean. Just remember, go out, find a problem, and turn it into a paycheck.